slim.
Completely agree with you there, Achilleos. And what about Septed picking up one of these impressive champions for him? Because sometimes SKT will go target, and sometimes they're like, well, let's beat you with your best champion. So never really sure which way SKT will approach draft. First ban is towards Comeback, who looked pretty desperately poor in the last series from Ever8 winners, which was a counterpoint because he came in against MVP, bossed around, played the Galio support and Thresh, looked very strong. Again, then against Jin was just abyssal voyaging into no vision and making mistakes. So Comeback is in the lineup for shot calling. Hachani was always known for having a very good mind for the game, even if his mechanics weren't necessarily there with some of the best supports in the world. And if he can shot call the downfall of SK Telecom, he'll be doing his job.
Yeah. Be a damn impressive one there. And SKT's actually going to ban away Zach on the blue side.
Maybe Blank just hasn't got to play it, Achilleos.
How very surprising. Well, he won't get his hands on it, but you can get your hands on that SKT Zach skin soon enough.
You know, we don't actually work for Riot. We do not need to do the sellouts here, Achilleos.
I know, but the skins actually look so damn cool.
They do look cool. The video especially was a nice window into the skin process, but we digress. Syndra has to be banned on the red side here for Ever8. They would love to be playing it themselves, but they're a bit more constricted on red. First pick Syndra, something we could definitely see from Ever8 in Game 2 of the series. We're not really sure where SKT are going to put their priority. There's a lot of changes in the roster here. If you look at the players that are still around, Faker has played a lot of Talia this season, 3-0 on that pick. Varus is probably going to be very high priority as well for both teams, specifically Bang, who is 3-1 on that. That's been his comfort as well. The holy trinity of junglers has been banned between the two teams. Zach, Lee Sin, and Elise taken off the board. SKT probably going to go pretty defensive in their jungle choice, you would think.
I mean, Grog is still available, so that one from Blank. And during the Longzhu series, so could just fall back onto that pick perhaps even first, and then just flex it between top and jungle. But yeah, Ever8, they've done their research. They will go ahead and ban that one away.
You're wondering what Untara has been playing in solo queue. Rumble, Fiora, Kennen, and Jace is most played. When he last played for CJ, it was the tanks. Maokai, Poppy, had a pocket Fiora, which we could see here. First pick is the Galio. Huni not in the lineup makes it more likely that it will be a Faker champion, but outside chance of Untara or Wolf piloting as well.
Gonna have to just wait for a little bit more information before we can allocate that Galio to a specific role, and Ever8 might be looking for ambiguity as well as they go ahead and lock in that J4.
We had a jungle Jarvan earlier today, so always an outside chance we see it, but it feels like most of the time it has been more of a misfire, and Jarvan is a pretty common blind pick top laner in the current meta. These surprises, they keep coming. Blind pick Jarvan is a thing. Priority in the draft, given what's banned actually, kind of up in the air. I thought Ever8 might just claim their AD carry of choice very early in the draft. Dual struggles on Ashe in that series will not be fast forgotten against Jin, where he was, I believe, the Teddy did 4 times his damage in that particular series, which that was an insane stat. So he'll wait off. He'll try and get his choice of picks into what you have to assume will be Varus. Varus Lulu and Varus Karma have been the lanes of choice for SKT, and okay, Untara goes with his most played across all accounts. He has most played Rumble, trying to play himself into form on that particular pick. Feels like if you're going to be an SKT top laner, the first thing on your resume has to be Rumble player, given the Prophet played it, Huni famously plays it, and now here comes Untara. We'll be playing the Rumble.
I mean, if you want to just be a top-tier LCK jungler as well, Rumble's got to be at the forefront of your champion pool. So that one will come through. The jungle pool very condensed at the moment. It looks like it's going to be the Olaf coming through from Malrong. I mean, an outside chance, a very outside chance that we would see that flex into the top lane with J4 in the jungle, but with the Ghost Hover already from Balrog, we're expecting him to take the Barbarian.
And again, Nidalee is now becoming a ban almost blanket against any opposition. Blank has played Nidalee quite a lot in his professional career, but he was never a top-tier Nidalee player. Again, mostly thought of as a defensive jungler. So to see Nidalee banned in this scenario, when again, we've only seen one game of Nidalee. It was Sungwon for Rox Tigers in a loss. Nidalee's done so much work at the top of solo queue. A lot of the challenger junglers are playing it, but we haven't seen it translate into competitive play just yet. With no AD carry taken, SKT will ban away the Ashe, and they probably want to force Duel into a bit of an awkward spot, given that he really did struggle against Teddy and Jin Greenwings.
Yep. Graves also taken off the board, so Ever8 completely focusing on Blank. They say, you're the undefeated one. you're the one that we need to focus on. So they take away the Graves. We'll have to see where Blank wants to end up.
It's probably a pretty big pick here. Ever8 could blind pick it against Faker. Otherwise, you'd imagine SKT will consider it because they could still go for the Galio support and have Orianna as well. So you don't necessarily want to force something. Zig's marksman role will come in. So Zig's bot lane is chosen by Ever8 winners. That increases the likelihood that we might see something like a Jace in the mid lane. A big pick for Scepted in the past has been Jace. So going magic damage from the bot lane lets us know that AD is possible here. Zyra and Ziggs means AD mid lane is very possible, as SKT will just go standard. Kha'Zix's probably the tier list jungler available, as, well, we've seen some crazy. Mordekaiser would be really over-the-top crazy.
That would be a bit of extra crazy there, but it's actually going to be the Lucian for the mid lane, we'd have to guess, unless it's going to be Ziggs mid, but seems a bit risky perhaps, but Lucian in the mid lane for Scepted. We've been wanting to see this from Faker. Saw it out of the top lane from Huni.
Yeah, almost certainly will be mid lane Lucian, like you say. The Ziggs opened up there to be an AD mid laner. I thought it would be Jace, again, given Scepted's reputation, one of his best picks. But he'll go on the Lucian against Galio. So Galio's probably just going to wave clear and not care. And if that gives a free lane to Lucian, and they can play around how strong Lucian is, 1 item, 2 item, feels like the mid game is going to be the big point of attack for Ever8. And take advantage of just how strong Lucian can be in the early game.
I mean, he is very mobile, so getting that taunt lockdown onto him might have to rely on something like the flash to really pull him in to set up for a gank from Blank, but still, Scepted has been performing so well for Ever8 winners, hasn't translated into too many wins for this squad. But if he can take down Faker, shut that Galio down early, perhaps that's what will be required for Ever8 to pick up a win against SKT.
And our first Ziggs bot lane of the season as well, trying to just push in bang, do their best Gigabyte Marines impression. Comeback will be on the Zyra here. A lot of magic damage, a lot of burst in the bot lane. Interesting draft, different than expectations for sure. But Ever8 winners, you got to take chances against SKT, and they're taking a couple in this draft.
That they are. Let's see if it's going to pay off, see if they can put a win on the board as we go in for Game 1. SK Telecom T1 versus Ever8 winners. OGN just teasing us. Bits and pieces of that intro, still waiting for the full release.
Ever8 fan group.
Nobody starting up the
cheer.
cheer. Huh.
Surprising there.
When the entire audience is filled with SKT fans.
Yeah, this is definitely both sides being full. As
that looks cool.
That was an Alistair and Faker. That's an interesting duo. There
Maybe
still are some Ever fans here, but not in full voice, that's for sure.
They got to get used to that cheering thing. You know, it's only been a couple games. They're new to LCK.
Well, they are new to the meta, too. There's no Doran shields here, Achilles, on the side of Ever8.
How tilted are you?
Pretty damn tilted. At least SKT did their bit and bought 3.
I mean, I guess it would feel pretty terrible Ziggs going Doran shield first.
That's true.
Having that extra bit of AP and HP is going to be monumental for his success. If
Helper might opt into it as a second item just because every tick of the Flame Spitter does refresh the Doran Shield passive, so it is very strong against and with Rumble, who was a Doran Shield user even in the old Doran Shield days. That might be the first time this season we've had no Doran Shields for a team.
Definitely an odd step.
So welcome back to the LCK for Untara, who took spring season off, wasn't playing on a professional team, but his escapades in solo queue, were enough to see him highly sought after. A lot of teams were looking at Untara after he got those two accounts in Challenger in top 5. And SKT picking up is definitely a big vote of confidence for Untara.
Well, already shoved through coming from Scepted, just trying to push Faker in underneath the turret. Try to deny him as much CS as possible.
Look at all this DPM he's getting.
Yeah, he's going to be able to go ahead pick up all these minions. So it'll be fine.
You'll try and play around with the minion waves also. If you get the fast push, you can try and pull it so that the Winds of War doesn't just instant clear, as we know it will get to, once it gets a few levels in it.
And this really could change the, the itemization that we usually see from the Gallios in the mid lane. Typically you go, straight for that adaptive helm But now going up against the Lucian, perhaps we'll see some alteration to that build for Faker.
Yeah, Adaptive Helm, very low value in this particular game. Marang's popped himself over. He's going for a very early gate. You don't often see level 2 ganks, but Marang's looking for it. He's already ghosted.
I mean, Antara's getting chunked out. Yeah,
Welcome to the LCK.
Zip his way in. Antara's going to go ahead, flashes away, but that's going to be the Undertow resets coming through, and he should be going down. One more hit. There it is. Malrang, as you say, welcome to the LCK. Indeed, the rookie takes down the former CJ top laner.
We saw this sort of creative pathing in Challenger and in promotions as well. One of the few junglers who would look for level 2s, but you don't usually expect. Remember, this was a red buff start. Actually, blasting plant over, ghost in, level 2 gank from an Olaf who did not start at the blue buff, like most Olafs will. So really creative stuff there from Marang. Sorry, he went blue buff straight into red, into the blasting plant over. So yeah, it was 2 camps.
Just really fast.
Well, he skipped over
rotation.
Wolves like most people will do. Usually you go blue buff into full clear, because you can abuse your passive, go low, and clear all the camps very quickly. But focused on the gank. Rumble always going to be overextending those early levels. Held onto the axe till after he saw the flash from Antara. Nicely done from Mora.
Yeah. Very well handled for him, and it's going to help Ever8 get out to a nice little lead. And a really fast track that Olaf in the jungle. And I mean, it's always sink or swim with him. So getting that first blood especially is going to be very instrumental for Malrang's success.
Mike has a level lead over Marang, so he's doing his best battle ward and put down a control ward as well. Doesn't matter what he's playing, he will always be highly involved in that vision war, such as the way of Blank.
Blank and battle ward, usually have to pick one.
It's true.
But he's doubling down.
I really can't say enough good things about Blank's play against Longzhu, where came in a time of need and really was clutch. Given that, honestly, the big criticism of Blank, even if you remember IEM and the struggles at the start of 2016, was that in the big games he seemed to get nervous. They talked about having some professional help come in to try and help him to fit into being the jungler for SKT. So for to now be the one who's clutched, for now to be the one who's looked at in those clutch moments, lets you know that a lot of work has been successfully done by Blank. And that is a very important tool for SKT, especially in best of 5s, where he can watch with Coma, potentially come in and abuse the jungle pathing of the enemy jungle.
Maybe that's where the weakness lies. Maybe he has to be summoned in later. Can't start the series. So if SKT come up with a loss here, I think that that's going to be the arrangement that has to be met. Wolf just going to get delayed a bit on that recall. Bouncing bomb will chunk him out a little bit more. Could open up for Jewel to maybe get a shove in on the turret, try to deny a little bit away from Bang, but just with the double Doran's rings, shove from the Ziggs isn't going to be that strong yet.
Yeah, the item build for Duel will be interesting to track. Tier became pretty standard for these bot lane Ziggs by the end of LCK Spring. Again, didn't see it so much. The first few weeks, everyone was having a go. Bang played a couple of games. Prey played it. Everyone was flexing their muscles onto the Ziggs, but a lot less later in the season.
And again, another shout out to Shifter.
It's true. We've mentioned him twice in one stream.
That's the most he's been mentioned on this stream in a while.
It's true. I mentioned him last time just because I would like to see him play mid for the team, because he is the best player on that team by far. Not historically, but in terms of current skill level.
Sure. Everybody else is just like, oh man, Papa doesn't like this very much.
Good old Shifter.
I hope Cutie Pie hears about this.
That's fine. He can at me. He'll get me some followers.
I want to see that. The Twitter war between Papa Smithy and Cutie Pie. Make it happen, guys.
Hey, we used to be duo partners in Season 1.
Well, Lottie.
Michael Santana and I. He won't remember me from that at all. I had a different name at the time. But it's a true story. His Revive Ghost mid lane Pantheon is one to remember. He was a troll back then, still a troll now.
I mean, were you Skyping together during these duos?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it wasn't Skype. It was
you were on
TeamSpeak.
You were on voice chat. How could he forget that voice?
This is a fair question.
He knows.
We've had literally no interaction in the preceding 6.5 years? 5 years at least? It's been a long time.
Maybe it's time to get the band back together. Papa Smithy joining the Delta Fox squad now, leaving OG.
Oh boy.
What a career move.
Upwards, only upwards, Achilles. Well, it's not been a lot of action since the level 1, but it's largely been an SKT. Just getting in their lanes in order.
And level 6 is here for Bang. If he can land that chain of corruption, you can see he's going to do just that as they leap in. And whoo, Duel doesn't even have a chance to flash. Just gets taken down even with the heal.
He was isolated in that spot as well. Dies. He threw out the W. I guess he was going to try and flash on top of it. Used early. Didn't lead to any rewards. So first kill on the board for SKT. They've had pressure in the bot lane the majority of the laning phase. And they'll turn onto the Infernal Drake, which is the right spawn. So they get to play around the bot side after picking up that kill. And most of the advantage for Ever8 were on the top side of the jungle. So being granted the Infernal Drake is a very favorable spawn for SKT.
And it is. So nicely done. Well orchestrated by SKT. And Duel going to have to be a bit faster on the trigger with that flash to get himself away from the chain of corruption.
Just back up for Untara, and we see Malrang spot on an award, so the turret dive onto Untara is looking less and less likely.
Tiamat already completed here for Helper, so the shove is going to be pretty nice for him. Untara having to opt in for those Ninja Tabi to start things off. Not going to have a lot of power behind that Rumble, so even if he does come TPing in, it's mostly going to be offering up utility as best as possible, slowing with the harpoons, rather than the damage that we would normally see.
Seeing where Faker goes with this build after his Ninja Tabi. Iceborne Gauntlet is a possibility. You want to find some health from somewhere. Still will go at least a Spirit Visage or Adaptive Helm eventually. But the laning items of choice will be fun to track after the readjustments of a lot of the health items. We've even seen Righteous Glory from mid lane Galio, so people are really messing around with different options, trying to abuse the flat reduction with just building health, which would work well against Malrang at least.
Let's see though just how far set back Duel is at the moment. 68 to 84 CS with the wave pushing into Bang, so he's going to have a very sizable lead over the Ziggs. Who normally, CSing is not going to be that big of a concern. But when you're going up against the best, it's going to be a bit difficult. Taunt comes through off the backside of the Justice Punch.
Speaking of going up against the best.
Lots of damage onto the Lucian, to say the least. He gets knocked down to about half HP. Does have a Bilgewater Cutlass and a couple pots, so he'll be okay. Now Faker's going to face check in on the Balrog. Hops him up, Taunt coming through, and Blank's waiting in the wings. They leap in. So much damage down on the Olaf. Sprinting away now with the Ghost. Should be able to make it out safely. Shield goes over onto Blank as the hero's entrance comes down from Faker, but no one in sight to get knocked up. So they will be able to exit.
Extended gain of chicken there, trying to make Malrang use the ultimate, the Ragnarok blown, but heal being the summoner spell on Septon meant they could turn. There was always a chance something could happen. They get a very long cooldown ultimate down as the hero's entrance has multiple minute cooldown at level 1. Like we'll still be able to clear him back though, so Malrang playing around the pressure. Previously it was SKT running this bot lane, or at least bot side of the jungle.
Thought maybe he would be going for it. Was spotted by that ward on the backside of the red pit. So Blank knew that he was in the vicinity. Still figured that he was safe enough to go ahead and complete that recall.
We've seen when top lane Jarvan is drafted and Olaf on the same team, which has happened a couple of times this season. We've actually seen the Flash Olaf come through. I think Spirit was running Flash Olaf for the Afrika Freaks. Instead, it's the Ghost, which helped a lot for the first blood of this game, but we'll force the Rumble Pit when Cataclysm comes down and Olaf is invariably trapped with the opposition.
Can make for some awkward situations.
Probably can't call it a Rumble Pit when there's probably also going to be Rumble in the pit.
That's very true. Well, Blank sticking around on the bottom side of the map, but you can see Duel playing very far back, not making the mistake that we saw from Prey earlier on, now that his support's out of the lane. Untara just going to go ahead and flash away from the Cataclysm as Malrang shows his face in the top side of the map.
If there wasn't a ward there was the chance they would continue to fight, and then the EQ into the axe would be enough, but ultimate for Flash is still always going to be a great trade for the Jarvan.
Yeah, very nicely done. You can see Untara just has to go completely defensive. Seeker's Arm Guard. The only item that he has giving him AP at the moment.
And he's building for lane. That is a good thing. And whenever Rumble is forced to build for lane, at least the threat of the Equalizer goes down, at least relatively. Rumble always wants to build for the Liandry's and magic penetration. So Jarvan being a respected pick enough to make the Rumble pick for build for lane will delay the Liandry's come in, and thus give Ever8 just a bit more of a semblance of a chance when the first team fight does break out.
Yeah. As expected though, seems Seems like he just wants to go for the Seeker's Arm Guard, cap it off there, then start focusing on some AP, so the Blasting One will get picked up. So he has a little bit more oomph behind that Flame Spitter.
Basically, with the armor, you have enough to shrug off most of the trades. Wait till your flash is back up, then you can force yourself to overextend again. So you just have to be respectful with this build, and the Blasting One will help with wave clear, given that you're probably going to be giving up creeps and minion wave control to the Jarvan, and then Blasting One now builds into Liandry's, so that will certainly be the pickup for Untara. No real information about Untara on his big re-emergence into the scene yet. Waiting for that big first equalizer to see if it's on point.
Hopefully it's a bit better than Rascals. Hope to God that it's better than Rascals.
Be hard to be degrees worse, but again, Rumble was a pick that everyone needs to pick up over the course of spring. And most of those new Rumbles definitely didn't seem to have the same mastery over the champion, understandably, that these players that have had 2, 3, 4 years invested into it do. Well, it's never nice to judge someone by their first equalizer, but that's just the name of the game.
Faker getting chased away out of the mid lane for a moment there.
Because Faker's cheating to bot lane as his bot lane is pushing in, so Septid has to threaten him, otherwise the hero's entrance and SKT pushing up would lead to first brick in the bot lane, so just a bit of a mind game there between Septid and Galio. Septid's had some of the coolest gamesmanship of mid laners. He was the player who saw Rift Herald being placed in mid lane when he was playing Galio and flash taunted to interrupt the channel, because that actually kills off the Rift Herald. It's never summoned. So investing flash for that was something where we're like, okay, this is really cool interaction. We have to evaluate it. It ended up being a smart move for him at the time.
Oh, we're still just winning out on these exchanges at the moment. In a very nice spot with the Black Cleaver getting ready to be completed on top of the Tiamat, so he's a pretty strong J4 to say the least at the moment.
He needs to be. I mean, the game plan here for Ever8 is for the Rumble Pit I was talking about, where Cataclysm and the Olaf are in the backline. No one else is joining him in the backline. Ziggs is going to launch damage from far away. Septid's going to be dueling probably the enemy front line. So the strength of the Jarvan, if he can do his QV impression and skydunk people as the Ziggs ultimate comes in and they get a burst onto the Varus, for example, or take down the Kha'Zix in the Chaos, that's really the route to victory for Ever8, because it's only 2 people diving. It's not one of these 4 or 5-man dive comps.
Oh, Wolf just walking straight past that control ward. We'll go ahead and sweep this out. Maybe he saw it and was concerned about the dragon being taken.
You know that somewhere Como is feverishly writing down a note.
I mean, that's a potential backside TP spot for Helper if they set up for a dive on SKT in this bottom lane.
And Helper's already got Black Cleaver and Tiamat, so he's definitely ready to go.
So maybe that'll bite them in the rear if it stays there for a bit longer, and if Ever8 can get the setup. But for now, just going to be a lot of back and forth tiptoeing around this mid side.
And if it lives for a while, I mean, right now you have to notice that there isn't the home guard buff yet, so you can't necessarily really close distance quickly if you go for a deep teleport like that, but in 4 minutes time, it certainly will be a pretty titanic option when it comes to engage. I always have to watch my adjectives when Jarvan is in the game, because the engages tend to become cataclysmic, which I don't want to say.
Say catastrophic.
I don't.
Though if you have a catastrophic engage, that's probably pretty bad.
I think Ever8 might have a catastrophic engage sometime this series, but not yet.
Well, it's going to be a sneak away on that Cloud Drake, but Malrong is soloing down that Rift Herald in the meantime. No vision in this top side of the river for SKT means that this is going to be relatively free.
Well, another series where, okay, teams know their strong side. For this side, it's Ever8 in the top side of the map. For SKT, it's the bottom side. And in past seasons, this would just be a straight-up loss for the top side, because you couldn't solo down Rift Herald. You needed to play around the bot lane. That's why we saw tanks teleporting bot lane, trying to take turrets. It was rinse and repeat. It got boring. Now you have a real option to take the Rift Herald on the top and get more value than a single Drake. So it's too early in the season to say that it's better to play around top side, but it's an option to play around top side. And that's already something exclusive to summer season after the Rift Herald change. Hey, I've thought of a synergy here.
What's that?
The Ziggs and the Rift Herald have a lot of synergy when it comes to being able to...
Oh, charge in with the satchel charge. And just
Yep.
Destroyed turret, yeah, you're correct.
Big burst into big execution is possible with the Ziggs and the Rift Herald. That's cool to think about.
Could see it taken in a matter of seconds, and the Rift Herald's alive for that much longer, maybe to get an additional charge into a tier 2.
So the theory there is to pick a winning top lane match and then a farm mid lane, or at least equal pressure. Then you're happy to split the map, swap the Rift Herald, and then whichever lane Ziggs is in is going to be a great lane to throw down the Rift Herald for.
Well, checking back in on the items here as Blank starts poking forward at this blue buff. Frozen Heart completed for Faker. And a Black Cleaver on the way for Septed.
Frozen Heart gets a lot of value, but we'll be relying on his resistances with no health in the bonus. Oh, Blank got the smite.
Yeah, takes it away. Nicely done by him. Bit too early from Malrong. Can't hand it over to Septed.
Just a minute amount of instant vision allowed him to actually get the smite off because there was a control ward in the brush. They weren't able to juggle the golem into the brush, so a bit of a mistake there from Ever8. The cost is the blue buff.
Shady Corruption comes out this time, flashed away by Comeback, keeps himself safe. But Bang still just trying to play as far forward as possible to whittle away at that turret. Wants to get that first brick away from the likes of that Ziggs. That's for a little bit of an extended trade under the turret. Takes a couple shots, but still is rather healthy as the Blade of the Root King is already completed for him.
If Riot is listening, I'd love to have the Rift Herald duration be on the trinket bar on the scoreboard. That'd be cool if we could have the, just like the trinkets.
Yeah, kind of like a cooldown,
yeah,
just to have it be there.
It's
yeah.
like a reverse cooldown compared to how the trinkets are used, but that would be useful as we only get it now and know that there's about 40% left on the Rift Herald buff.
Yeah, get that hover over.
He thought it would be used around bot lane, but if Malrong's to do that, he'll have to set it down pretty soon, and he's on top side. Maybe he just wants to further punish the Rumble, who has early vision that Olaf is here.
Yeah, spots him out. Waves pushing into him. I mean, the dive is still going to be somewhat an option. Meanwhile, on the bottom side of the map, first brick sought after by Bang and Wolf. That's going to be that equalizer thrown down. The wave cleared out as the Rift Herald does come through as they try to force this one up, but I'm not sure how much more they're going to get for this.
Yeah, probably not even get the turret unless they wait for the next minion wave. They're going to get a lot of it, though.
Yeah, a couple more hits that will go down, so poor investment, you'd have to say, overall for Ever8, as they do lose out on that first brick at the bottom side of the map. So SKT taking the first clear lead that we've had so far in this game.
So excited about the bot lane Rift Herald, but was denied. Feels bad. Item spike starting to come. I talked about 2 items on the Lucian, now complete. Black Cleaver finished after the Blade of the Ruin King, and Black Cleaver on Helper as well. So that might mean some synergy between each other, and even for the Olaf when he's diving into the backline to have the armor shred down is good.
Well, Bang rethink a couple options there. One for the Hex Drinker at first glance, and then decide, you know what, I can wait on it. The Ziggs doesn't have that big of damage at the moment, so swaps back over for the Zeal.
Not going to be playing exclusively in the same lane as the Ziggs either. Ziggs will have to tend to CS in bot lane. I tell a lie though, as for now, Septed is going to be the one to pick up the empty lane farm, given that he's their real source of consistent damage.
Getting up towards this mid turret, it's going to be a bit of a task for Bang, as Duel does finally have some items coming through the Sheen there as well.
You don't have a lot of great vision to be able to make plays around the mid lane. Usually you want advanced vision on both the blue and red side. Finally, just now, we see Karma attending to the bot side vision. There is a degree of risk in Bang pushing forward.
Just really allocating resources is SKT. As Antara will be now scoring off against Septed in the bottom side of the map. Which doesn't sound like a great matchup for him on the Rumble. Blank walking forward, will get rooted, takes a bit of damage. Wolf trying to throw out those shields to keep him alive. The leap away as the redemption comes down. Bang getting ready to join the fray, and Helper comes forward. They'll just exchange spots as Blank flashes to the side, getting away from that Flag Drag. And Faker is in the backside, locks up Comeback, will find the first kill of the fight. Hero's entrance coming down, not going to find the pop-up, but the shield is enough to keep Bang relatively healthy. And now SKT, maybe posturing forward, looking for this turret, and Tara nearly getting popped up, goes into the zone, flashes away as the Cullen comes through from Septed, keeps himself alive.
Yeah, good rotations there from SKT. It was a 5v4 as Septed was not there. Equalizer was good, both controlling space and burning down Comeback.
Well,
and now they're looking for
Malrong. Yet Justice punch in onto Malrong, doesn't have the Ragnarok, already popped it, now getting taunted, will go down as Blank finds the kill.
Yeah, SKT are playing around the vision they just moved, whereas Ever8 doesn't have that same information. They're kind of all at sea with their shot caller down. Now they're chasing Septic.
Yeah, Septic trying to get this exchange in onto Bang. Now kiting back, but gets taunted up by Faker yet again and should go down. Can he get the exchange? Yes, he will. Takes out the enemy Varus and somehow is still alive. Justice Punch at the end will finally take him down, but a kill that Septic likely should not have gotten.
Nice mechanics to kind of spare his blushes, but was caught in no man's land. That's the bigger problem there, is that while he cleaned up a kill and went 1 for 1, need to be a bit smarter about the fact that they still don't have any defensive vision on their red side or blue side. They had a lot of advanced vision, but the game is being played on SKT's terms, and thus they were flanked multiple times as people just kept getting caught out. Started out with the Kazakhs appearing to get caught out. They had aggressive teleport coming in, but first Galio comes in, Rumble starts rotating, and the equalizer here is pretty spot on. Faker gets the 2-man taunt. Equalizer means that people can't come to join the fight, and also they just burn down the Zyra. And from there we thought, okay, it's going to be 1 kill, it's going to be over, Septic's going to eventually get to mid lane and start wave clearing, but SKT moved to their vision around the top side as Untara is being targeted in the bot side, and they got 2 more kills out of this.
Yeah, and I mean, like you said, no man's land for Septic later on in this, but also Malrong just getting way too greedy, wrapping around towards SKT, trying to contest for some Raptors instead of just peeling back. He suffers a death for it.
He thought that SKT didn't have enough information to make that aggressive a move, but they had a ward on the Raptors. They had a ward to spot that Jarvan was going bot lane. They knew that there was no one lying in wait to turn the fight, and thus it was just a free kill on the Olaf, so overconfidence there.
Now Malrong sprinting forward, Righteous Glory down as they try to get in onto Wolf. They will root, and the redemption comes through, but he's going to go down. Duel able to walk up and at least get a tag in onto that Karma before she dies, but Malrong takes the kill.
This time, punishing Wolf, looking for the same sort of vision they had just a moment ago. Second Drake of the game goes over to SKT. Third, actually.
Third one, yeah. There was the second Cloud Drake for SKT. The top lane turret does finally fall.
Battle lines still seem to be drawn. Top side mostly to the advantage of Ever8. And SKT have gotten all the Drakes. Seems to be a small issue in the SKT booth.
Yeah, Peanut not in the game, so not going to be his mouse issue, but maybe Bang rather, having a similar problem.
We find out that for some reason Bang borrowed Peanut's mouse. Like, really? Hopefully we'll get some information over what's going on.
See what happens as we get the 80s into the booth to try to alleviate the issue.
Definitely looks like SKT are a tier above Ever8, which is not really to anyone's surprise unless you're reading too much into their loss over Samsung. But I like that Ever8 still are like, okay, top side is still our playground. Really understood after Malrong's death that there had to be vision there that needs to be replaced very soon. Took down the Karma, got the Rift Herald as well.
All right. Getting some information. So it seems like we're just having a PC issue here for Bang. So not any of his hardware. It's just going to be something with the computer. So likely just going to be rebooting, reconnecting him into the game.
Yeah, so just getting that confirmation that hopefully it's not going to be too long of a break. Game was still very much up for grabs, and we're already back in. Nice stuff
so
there.
maybe even just a client's problem with the disconnect. So we do get him back in, and seems like everything's taken care of as we don't have a repause. So rather swift one as we approach 25 minutes. Speaking of Bang, he's going to get pinched on, has a flash over the wall into the Raptor pit as Helper comes over with that flag and drag, and Ever8, they're looking to open up a second turret for themselves. Chain of Corruption comes down. Nice equalizer out from Montara. Still doesn't really have the damage to back it up. Helper's still going to be pretty tanky on the J4, but they stave off the push.
Yeah, respect shown by Bang because Karma was still coming back from base after being picked just before the replay occurred. Gold lead here is by no means severe for SKT. A lot of their advantage is in their investment into the Drake.
Yeah, it's just 1.5 at the moment. But like you said, silently ticking up for them is that Infernal.
Rift Herald didn't get much of a benefit for Ever8 in the top side. I guess you could argue that they largely broke the outer turret line first from it. As Faker decides that, yep, he liked what Kuro was doing on the mid lane Galio, going for Gargo Stoneplate into Thornmail. He's not dying intercepted anytime soon.
Yeah, just trying to take the least amount of damage while also dishing some back out. So he'll be in a pretty good spot here. And Bang as well, going straight in for a Phantom Dancer. Thought maybe we'd see that Hurricane come out for him on the Varus. But wants that dueling potential.
And no one's putting Hurricane, so again, it seems to be a nod to 7-11 hitting next week. And Hatch is really changing the power level of that particular item. SKT pushing up top lane, pushed in bot lane. We're not seeing any advantage from specifically the J4 in dueling the Rumble, and Rumble's just leaving lane wherever possible. Because they really want to break the mid lane turret, but for now, are largely being thwarted. Really high wave clear on the side of Ever8.
Slow and steady as the rest of the game goes through. Rift Herald still not, of course, didn't net much for Ever8, so they don't have too many openings on the map. And Baron is very far away for either of these teams unless we see a massive fight come through with one clear victor.
Game of pressure. The seesaw right now still favoring SKT, but not in a large way. Oh. Ragnarok forced out, so ult for ult trade there.
Go ahead and get rid of that, Faker.
Oh, that's actually surprising damage coming through from the side of Sceptid, although he does have the Last Whisper and the Black Cleaver.
Yeah, ripping right through Faker, even with all of that armor that he stacked up for himself, and Sceptid is still going to be very healthy. So in a very nice spot to duel out that Galio, so he can stick very far forward in that top side of the map for a little bit longer as he clears out that wave. Doesn't really have the vision inside the jungle to go too much deeper than that. Does have one ward that spots out blank, so he knows that he should start peeling back.
Team 5 is the one I'm really excited about, just for, as we talked about, Ever8's attempt to dive the backline with Olaf and Jarvan while Ziggs throws a bomb, compared to the Equalizer trying to shut down Sceptid. That just can carry these fights. He has a lot of levels, things that you miss when you have a mid lane Lucian, is you have a lot of levels. So things like the culling at 27 minutes in the game being level 3 is a lot of base damage that can surprise people in team fights compared to your usual expectations about 80 carry Lucian. He certainly has a nice amount of CS, although predictably Faker always slightly ahead of the game.
Yeah, now going to be trying to itemize in for the MR, picks up that Spectre's Cal so he can mitigate a bit of the damage coming out from duel and comeback.
Find some control wards here. Ever8, they have one on their red buff, but having a stronger line of control wards like you can see SKT does around the Baron would behoove them so they can continue to inch forward with clearing minions, but back away also when they need to show respect. SKT going on one of those ward missions, clearing out one of the control wards we discussed. There are the control wards, so Ever8, they understand the spot they're in. They now have 7 in their inventory. As they back away, Lucian coming from base, Zyra coming from base, 50% HP on the mid lane turret taken down.
Whittling away at it where they can. Now pinch from the sidelines. Blanket and Dara. Helper getting a little bit feisty. Goes forward with Flag and Drag. Won't find the connection.
Remember, Helper doesn't have a guy.
Oh my goodness! The Strangledor's thrown down. Hero's Entrance coming in, but it's just a bit too late to save the life of Wolf. He falls. Dara very far forward. It's the overheat. Trying to get that Flame Spitter back up, and Sceptid goes low. So far, the 1-for-1 as both supports have fallen. SKT, can they try to go back in for more? Faker pushing forward, faking out, making him think that that flash taunt could be coming through. Won't find it. Sceptid's going to have to go back to base. But SKT, not sure if they can really push in for much.
That was the threat we talked about onto the backline achieved. As Faker just takes free damage.
Yeah, he's just coming in underneath the turret. Knocked back with a satchel charge. Still very okay on the Galio, still healthy.
Was he even taking health from those turret shots? It didn't look like it.
He's got a lot of armor, as it turns out.
Able to largely ignore that. That is the backline threat we talked about. Cataclysm into the Ziggs bomb, the Mega Infernal bomb, doing a lot of damage, taking down the Karma, but crucially, not Bang, who was right with his read that he needed a Hex Drinker and now has the completed more Malmortius as well.
And I mean, that was a pretty big investment from the side of Comeback. Looked like he wanted to go for the all-in, get a multi-man kill on SKT, maybe open up for that mid lane turret, if not the Baron, or the Baron. So flashes forward for the route into Strangledor, and he doesn't get much else other than the kill on the Wolf.
SKT setting up a backup win condition. Soon we'll have 4 Drakes and also the Elder Dragon spawning at around 36-39. Means they'll have another place on the map to fight around. It's really significant when you have these leads. People might say, okay, the Drakes aren't of the highest value apart from the Infernal. But what it means is that if Ever8 are spending all their time fighting for vision around Baron, They just can't match the same amount of vision around Baron and around the Dragon at the same time. If you're able to trade up in that scenario or even solo the Elder Dragon later in the game, it means you can brute force your way to the Baron and thus finally push up, because for now, SKT have been really thwarted. It's only one turret apiece at 31 minutes when we've had games end earlier already this season.
Yeah, not nearly the lead that you might expect for them going up against Ever8. Bang gonna throw out that Chain of Corruption, doesn't find anything. And they're still just trying to get into this turret, but there's so much wave clear from the side of Ever8.
My instinct is that in the late game, it's very hard to read. Usually Ziggs comes, you say, okay, you gotta get done early, can't do it late. Lucian in the mid lane does change that a little bit because you do have consistent damage coming through from your mid laner, who's soon to hit level 18.
Wow, Warmogs.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Duel going low, that's gonna be the Cataclysm coming down, making it for the bomb, and the Equalizer on the backside, and Tara comes up with the kill.
Not much health left on the Ziggs, just burns down. Feels like it has that old base damage it had on release. And now SKT are in a 5v4 scenario at minimum. They will want to finally end the stalemate around the mid lane turret. And his play in the top lane as well. Baron's always an objective when you get a pick for SKT at 32 minutes into a game. For now, it's just going to be that mid lane turret.
Yeah, they take that down. Faker not quite able to finish off the tier 1 in top, but you can see big push coming down. Faker does have the hero's entrance and the TP available. Should he need to join in, it's just going to be culling from the side of the jungle there from Septa to clear out the wave and stop that push from coming through. But SKT, just off of getting that Ziggs, open up the map that much more.
Yeah, that's the pick you need. If it's not the smite, then taking the Ziggs means they can only be wave clear in one lane. Faker just drawing Lucian to the top lane was enough because it allowed them to have no wave clear left in the mid lane and thus push mid lane, eventually take top lane as well as the Lucian rotated. So finally opening up the map that was one turret apiece just a moment ago. Now 3 turrets to SKT. The map gets longer. An objective like Baron, with the minions pushing in and granting vision, becomes more realistic for SKT. Their Baron damage is actually decent, but not fantastic, because Kha'Zix is good in that area, but Galio, you know, a couple of Qs, but apart from that, probably going to be on zoning duty.
Yeah. All going to be on the back of Bang.
Faker has it
playing and Antara. And yes, he does. I love you, Faker. Never change.
Might exchange it for something else later, but just bought a Magi's, because why not?
I mean, historically, he always goes for the more aggressive items, but on the Galio, you don't really have that liberty, so he finds a way to sneak it in there.
I mean, he doesn't have many stacks. We have a very small monitor here. I want to say it's 6?
Yes, 5 or 6, I believe.
So not going to be anywhere near the efficiency of that item, but there you go, Faker. Now people will say, Rush Magi's, Faker approved.
I mean, he did have the ring, you know, going forward into that one without having the corrupting potion. So just using it off of standard pots.
Tipping point comes if there's ever a point where Bang gets double lifesteal and can lifesteal through and ignore the Jarvan and Olaf and has the more Malmortius also to deal with the Ziggs. If Bang is not at risk of dying to that dive, it feels like the super tank that is Faker will trivialize Scepter to the point where SKT will win team fights. So it feels like the window is closing, and SKT, they want it to close right now.
Oh boy, well, Helper, he's trying to get a pinch in from the side, but takes so much damage just basically from Muntara alone. Chain of Corruption down, connects in on Decepted, but capitalization not quite going to be there. Faker able to Justice Punch away from the Stranglethorns before the pop-up comes through, but even if it did, I'm not sure if they'd be able to take him down.
Bit of a misread from the side of Wolf. Thought that the snare was going to be longer on Decepted, wasn't, and thus wasted the Stranglethorns. Sorry, that was just a defensive Stranglethorns, my apologies. But they backed away to SKT and didn't lead to much.
Faker flashing in out of vision, locks down Septed. He does dash away. Don't quite have the damage there, and the Chain of Corruption already burned by Bang. Still cheeky little play, but it's going to be a flash for flash.
Probably favors Lucian a little bit, just because the threat of the initiation from Faker is a little lower.
I mean, like we've discussed before, flash on Galio has always been a must-have.
And still is.
So, not having that does make him a bit weaker. Does give some openings here for Ever8 to play more aggressively.
Kind of weirdly, it was one of those games where flash on the Zyra is pretty important, just because Zyra has been being one of the people entrusted to actually get the vision around Baron. Baron is the objective that will probably close the game for SKT, getting the Baron buff minions to trivialize the wave clear from specifically the Ziggs. Will probably actually allow this game to be closed, but now at least with double melee, in fact triple melee if you include the jungler, but double melee solo laners, Actually cracking the base, not a trivial objective for SKT.
Yep, likely going to be down to the Baron or that Elder Dragon, as you say, which will be spawning in 35 seconds. 4 stacks for SKT, a must contest for Ever8.
5 items septed with double buffs. This time they're going the opposite route of going for Galio mid. They are putting all the eggs in the septed basket. Something you can criticize them for, but for now have not really been guaranteed or granted the sort of fight they need.
Figure coming around the backside. There's nothing else. Not quite going to find it, but the chain of corruption comes
Excellent
down.
equalizer.
Has to pop it. Yes, equalizer, as you say, just burning away at them. Taunt comes through. Straight on to Helper as soon as he arrives, but Blank's going to be the first one that goes down in the fight alongside Comeback. Figure still pushing forward, looking for the taunt. Can't quite clip Septed. Just plays on the outer ring of that. Does make it out alive, but still battered and bruised. SKT, Blank dead. The pings are still coming through. They want that Elder Dragon.
Yeah, there's no vision around the Elder Dragon. We talked about how Ever8 were fighting just to get vision around Baron. Thus, the Elder Dragon is completely bare of information. They can choose to face check or try to force moving around Baron to actually force the hand of SKT to react.
Well, seems like they're actually concerned about maybe Ever8 forcing up that
They are.
Baron. Yeah, they're going to be moving over here.
This is really smart from Ever8. When you can't actually go to an area that's completely dark, go to an area where you have some vision and force SKT to come to you.
All wrong, sitting in the brush. We'll start pushing forward now. Pops the Ghost, actually. Not sure how much he's going to get done here. It's actually Helper taking a ton of damage. Bang just firing away. Volley after volley rips right through that J4.
Taking a lot of free damage. Bang has flash available, so even the Cataclysm is not going to be what's required to lock the Varus into place for any length of time.
Blank is up now, so maybe we see SKT start pressuring around this Baron, trying to draw Ever8 in.
SKT playing around Elder Dragon was that play. They were hoping for the face check to come through, but Ever8 saw through it. That's probably some Hachani shot calling coming through, but now they can just return to the objective. It will only take 2. Take a little while, but this will be SKT finally picking up a major objective as they've been largely stalled by the team that plays the longest average game. You'd think it would be Jinair, but for one season, it's not Jinair Green Wings so far in summer. It is, in fact, Ever8 who have the longest average game time. And at 38 minutes, SKT have most of what they want, but not all, unless the game will continue for probably at least another 5 to 10.
I mean, could just go ahead, start rushing down the Baron, have that 4-stack Elder Dragon buff to fight with, and it would be a do-or-die situation for Ever8. See what they want to do. Could just shove down the mid lane as well. Bang starting to push forward.
Still
Trying to
haven't
get some more
found
damage in.
Helper a real way to get into the backline. Every time we've seen him try to actually make a play, he's just been DPS down below half and had to back away. Finding a way to trap Bang, even blowing Bang's flash would be so big in the future fights. Because again, if he can slip out of Cataclysm and Mega Infernal Bomb, will largely shut down his effectiveness.
Root not going to connect on the Blank. Just playing forward as cheekily as possible. All wrong, checking with that undertow. Just trying to get that spot vision down and ensure that this Baron is not being taken now. Control ward thrown into the back of the pit. So they at least know that it's not happening at the moment.
Been really impressed with Huntara on his re-debut. The equalizers have been excellent so far this game. Flash!
Oh, that's going to be a flash forward here. Septed going low. Another equalizer burning away at the Lucian. And one final piercing arrow takes him out as Bang scoops up the kill. Meanwhile, Faker going forward almost takes out Comeback, looking for a little bit more. Won't be able to find him, but with the way pushing forward in the mid lane, they're just going to be looking for the inhibitor and maybe even just peeling back to the Baron after that.
Aggression from Bang finds the pick, undecepted. He goes down, and thus no longer is the inhibitor defensible. Burst him very quickly with the 4 stacks on the Elder Dragon buff. Now they can take top lane, they can fall back to Baron as well. They can take a long time to do it because still 35 seconds for Septed to respawn.
Yeah, given Ever8's track record so far, you have to expect that they would very much need Septed alive and in the fight for them to take this one, unless Malrung can find a miraculous steal. Ghost isn't available, does have the Ragnarok, but getting into the pit would just be a bridge too far. They will get that Mega Inferno Bomb down. It's a nice chunk off of Blank, but it will not dissuade them from collecting that Baron.
Didn't take a single outplay, but Bang investing his flash, registering it onto Septed, killing him was enough to actually finally break the base and take the Baron that had been denied by Ever8 for so long into this game. Bang will recall. Faker's sitting on 3,700 gold, but
just casually.
He would argue he's item capped. I would look at the Medjais and shake my head a little bit.
as long as he keeps getting assists, you know. But maybe we'll see him swap something out. There we go. We'll get rid of the Magi's for Leandres.
Okay.
Whatever. You do that, Faker.
Just Faker things. Bit more magic band. He'll say it's got health on it, so it's a tank item.
I mean, think of how much damage he'd be doing if he still had the Ultimate Dragon buff. All that true damage burn off the gusts in addition to Leandres.
The reason why it's a decent pickup is that we've mentioned they have triple melee when it comes to actually taking turrets. It means that his poke is even more intense. You have the little bit of burn coming through. The cooldown is so short on the Winds of War that it's not a complete junk purchase in the context of this game.
Come back maybe in a bad spot. Does have to flash over the wall when that taunt comes down. Faker alone could kill him.
Doesn't have a dive buddy like a Rakan or a Jarvan to really dive turrets, so that's why it's a lot more poke from SKT, and that's where the build comes in.
See, they're working on it here. Bang trying to poke out as best as he can. Efficiently clearing out the waves. Will open up for that second inhib. And Ever8 backs against the wall, starting to struggle.
Don't really seem to have an idea how to go in. They still don't have much threat. There's a Cataclysm.
Cataclysm comes down onto 4 members. Redemption coming through as Wolf almost goes down. It flashes away, but Balrog's into the backside, trying to stick to him like glue to pick up some kills here for the side of Ever8, but it's still going to be Septic going down first and foremost, followed up by Comeback. 1 kill picked up for Duel, but he will be answered for it. Maybe even a quadra kill handed over. Satchel Charge will take him back to the fountain as Bang finds the triple. That was the opening that Ever8 needed 10-15 minutes ago from Helper. Couldn't find it the entire time, and now they will be losing this game. 42.5 minutes on the clock. They'll complete the ace. Untara, welcome back to LCK, finds the final kill, and SKT find game 1.
Yeah, by the time the threat was there, by the time they got the engage, there was no longer threat from Jarvan and Olaf, and while Scepter was dancing in the backline with fairly low health members, the base values weren't enough from the tanks in the front line, and thus he was turned on, the team was taken down, and SKT, who were thwarted, who were frustrated for quite a long amount of time, the game was actually in the balance and even post 30 minutes. Finally, through Bang finding a single pick onto the enemy mid laner, got the resources they needed to overcome their poor sieging, sieged down a second turret, found a fight, and from there, took down game 1 in pretty comfortable fashion.
Yeah. Good job by Untara. On his return here to LCK, picks up that win. Fantastic equalizers throughout the duration of game number 1, and likely that we'll see him stick through for the series.
For a first-time Rumble in 2017, Untara was one of the best. Excellent use of equalizer. Decent laning phase after being surprised very early by the Olaf gank. It looked comfortable for SKT, but it wasn't easy. It was still pretty resilient stuff from Ever8, and they'll throw some different darts at the dartboard and try something new in game 2, you'd have to think.
Well, maybe now that they have that win on Untara, got himself back in here on stage, on LAN, maybe now they'll start playing a bit more aggressively in this next game if we don't see any swaps to the roster.
And that's the thing, that is a big if. Will we see Huni come back? Will we see the return of Peanut? These things are all possible. SKT are playing the long game. It's 18 best of 3s. They'll show us something new.
Yeah, for sure. We'll see what Ever8's going to piece together. Couldn't quite find the lead. It was a good start on the kill onto the Rumble, but outside of that, stagnated, couldn't find a lead further past that. We're going to go to a break. When we come back, we'll have game 2, see if SKT closes out 2-0.